What if I told you that some Mopar muscle cars were so deadly they had higher death rates than fighter jets? Sounds impossible, right? Well, there's a 1970 Plymouth Cuda that had more crashes per mile than any American muscle car in history. These weren't just fast cars, they were four-wheeled death traps wrapped in gorgeous Mopar sheet metal. Today, we're exposing the 10 deadliest Mopar muscle cars ever built, and number 1 will absolutely shock you. Number 10, 1968 Dodge Dart GTS 383. The 1968 Dodge Dart GTS might have looked like an innocent compact car, but underneath that unassuming exterior lurked a mechanical beast. Chrysler took their lightweight A-body platform and stuffed it with a 383 cubic inch big block V8 that produced 300 horsepower, creating a power-to-weight ratio that was absolutely insane for a car that most people thought was just a grocery getter. The Dart GTS was the ultimate sleeper, and that's exactly what made it so treacherous. The problem wasn't just the power, it was how that power was delivered in such a small, light package. The 383 big block was never meant to live in the Dart's engine bay, and it showed the engine sat so far forward that it created a dangerous nose-heavy weight distribution that made the car prone to understeer that could quickly transition to snap oversteer without warning. The rear suspension was completely overwhelmed by the torque, causing the car to hop and skip under hard acceleration like a mechanical bronco trying to throw its rider. Many Dart GTS owners discovered that their innocent-looking compact could break traction at highway speeds, sending them sideways into guardrails or off the road. The combination of massive power in a lightweight body created a car that looked harmless but could put you in serious danger faster than most dedicated muscle cars. Number 9, 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner. A 12. Plymouth's Roadrunner. A 12 was a factory-built drag strip terror that had no business being street legal. This wasn't your average Roadrunner, it was a purpose-built quarter-mile destroyer that Chrysler somehow convinced the government to let them sell to the public. The A12 package included a 446-pack engine, but more importantly, it included modifications that made the car essentially uncontrollable on public roads. The A12's 446-pack produced 390 horsepower, but the real danger came from the car's stripped-down nature and race-focused setup. The suspension was tuned for maximum traction on a drag strip, which meant it was completely useless for anything resembling normal driving. The car would hop and skip over even small road imperfections, often launching inexperienced drivers into whatever happened to be in their path. The lightweight body panels and minimal sound deadening meant that drivers had no idea how fast they were actually going until it was too late. The A12's most dangerous characteristic was its Jekyll and Hyde personality. It would idle like a kitten, then transform into a tire-shredding monster the moment you touched the throttle. Many A12 owners discovered that their car was essentially a street-legal race car that required professional-level skills to drive safely. The combination of race car performance and street car expectations created a perfect storm of automotive mayhem that resulted in numerous accidents from drivers who thought they were buying a fast street car instead of a barely tamed drag racer. Number 8, 1970 Dodge Challenger TA 346-pack. The 1970 Dodge Challenger TA was Chrysler's answer to the Trans Am Racing Series, but what they created was a street-legal race car that was far too dangerous for public roads. The TA's 340 cubic inch small block was topped with 3 two-barrel carburetors and tuned to produce 290 horsepower. But dyno tests revealed these engines were actually making closer to 350 horsepower, turning the already aggressive Challenger into a barely controllable missile. The TA's danger lay in its deceptive nature and race-bred components. The side exit exhaust pipes weren't just for show. They created a distinctive sound that warned everyone within earshot that something dangerous was approaching. But the real terror came from the car's handling characteristics. The TA was set up for road racing with a suspension that was incredibly stiff and unforgiving. On smooth racetracks, this setup worked perfectly, but on public roads with potholes, expansion joints, and varying surfaces, it made the car unpredictable and hazardous. The TA would feel planted and stable right up until the moment it wasn't, and by then, it was too late. The car's aggressive camshaft and high-strung nature meant that it required constant attention from the driver. A moment's inattention could result in the rear end stepping out without warning. Many TA owners discovered that their car demanded racing-level concentration and skills for even routine driving, making it one of the most mentally exhausting and dangerous muscle cars ever built. Number 7. 1968 Plymouth Barracuda, Formula S 383. The 1968 Plymouth Barracuda Formula S looked like a sporty pony car, but when equipped with the optional 383 big block, it became a mechanical menace disguised as family transportation. Plymouth took their compact A-body platform and somehow managed to squeeze in a 383 cubic inch V8 that produced 300 horsepower, creating a combination that defied both logic and physics. The Formula S's most dangerous characteristic was its complete lack of weight over the rear wheels. The massive 383 engine sat so far forward that the car's weight distribution was more like 65 to 35 front to rear, making the back end incredibly light and prone to stepping out with minimal provocation. The problem was compounded by the car's short wheelbase, which made it inherently unstable at high speeds. Many Formula S owners learned this lesson the hard way, often while passing slower traffic on two-lane highways. The car would feel stable and planted at moderate speeds, then suddenly become a tail-happy nightmare when you applied full throttle. The rear suspension was completely overwhelmed by the 383's torque, causing the car to hop and skip under hard acceleration. The combination of massive front-end weight bias, short wheelbase, and inadequate rear suspension created a car that was essentially uncontrollable under full acceleration. The Formula S didn't just endanger drivers, it endangered them in the most unexpected ways, often during routine driving maneuvers that should have been completely safe. Number 6. 1969 Dodge Super Bee A12. The 1969 Dodge Super Bee A12 was Chrysler's budget muscle car taken to its logical and dangerous conclusion. By stripping away every luxury feature and sound-deadening material, Dodge created a car that was lighter, louder, and infinitely more hazardous than its upscale siblings. The A12 package turned the already aggressive Super Bee into a street-legal drag racer that had no business being driven by anyone except professional drivers. The Super Bee A12's 446 pack engine produced 390 horsepower, but in the stripped-down A12 body, it became even more unhinged. The car's lightweight construction meant there were fewer creature comforts to distract you from the fact that you were piloting a barely controlled explosion. The manual steering required the arms of a gorilla, especially at parking lot speeds, and the manual brakes needed a leg press to bring the car to a stop. But the real danger came from the car's schizophrenic personality and race-focused setup. The A12 would idle quietly, then transform into a tire-shredding beast the moment you touched the throttle. The rear axle was strong enough to handle the torque, but the leaf spring suspension would cause the car to hop and skip under hard acceleration, often launching inexperienced drivers into whatever happened to be in their path. The combination of brutal power, primitive safety equipment, and race car setup created a perfect storm of automotive mayhem. Dodge marketed it as the ultimate budget muscle car, but they forgot to mention it required professional-level skills to drive safely. Number 5. 1970 Plymouth Superbird 440. The Plymouth Superbird was even more extreme than its Daytona sibling, with aerodynamic modifications that made it virtually uncontrollable on public roads. Even with the base 440 Super Commando engine producing 375 horsepower, the Superbird was a street-legal NASCAR racer that turned every drive into a potential disaster. The massive rear wing and extended nose cone created aerodynamic forces that defied logic and physics at normal driving speeds. The Superbird's danger came from its complete focus on high-speed oval track performance at the expense of everything else. The aerodynamic package that made it dominant at Talladega created a nightmare in parking lots and city streets. The extended nose cone made it nearly impossible to judge distances, leading to countless parking lot accidents and front-end damage. The rear wing created so much drag at low speeds that the car felt sluggish and unresponsive, encouraging drivers to use more throttle than necessary. But the real terror began when aerodynamic forces started to take effect at highway speeds. The Superbird would suddenly come alive, becoming twitchy and unpredictable as downforce and drag began to influence its behavior. Crosswinds could send the car careening across lanes without warning, and the massive wing acted like a sail that could catch gusts and throw the car off course. Many Superbird owners reported that their car felt like it was trying to take flight at highway speeds, creating a terrifying sensation that required constant vigilance to control. The combination of race car aerodynamics and street car duties created a vehicle that was essentially unfit for public road use, resulting in numerous accidents from drivers who discovered that NASCAR technology and daily driving were incompatible. Number 4. 1968 Dodge Charger RT 426 Hemi. The 1968 Dodge Charger RT with the 426 Hemi engine was Chrysler's ultimate expression of automotive violence. The Hemi wasn't just an engine, it was a mechanical beast that happened to fit in a car rated at a conservative 425 horsepower. Dyno tests revealed these engines were actually producing closer to 500 horsepower, turning the already intimidating Charger into a street-legal missile with dangerous tendencies. The Hemi's hemispherical combustion chambers created power delivery that was both brutal and unpredictable. The engine would build power smoothly until about 3,000 RPM, then explode into a fury of torque that could snap axles, destroy transmissions, and launch the car sideways without warning. The Charger's long wheelbase should have provided stability, but the Hemi's torque was so violent that it could overcome physics itself. Drivers reported that the car would literally lift the front wheels off the ground during hard acceleration, creating a terrifying sensation of being in an out-of-control rocket ship. The Hemi's solid lifter valve train created a distinctive mechanical noise that sounded like a machine gun at idle, warning everyone within earshot that something dangerous was approaching. The engine's massive torque output would twist the Charger's unibody structure under hard acceleration, causing doors to jam and windows to crack. Many Hemi Charger owners reported that their cars would literally shake themselves apart during aggressive driving. The cooling system was barely adequate for the Hemi's heat output, leading to frequent overheating and engine damage. Insurance companies quickly blacklisted Hemi cars, and many dealers refused to sell them to anyone under 25. The 426 Hemi Charger wasn't just fast, it was dangerously, catastrophically fast in ways that modern drivers can barely comprehend. Number 3. 1970 Dodge Challenger RT 426 Hemi. The 1970 Dodge Challenger RT with the 426 Hemi was Chrysler's attempt to create the ultimate pony car, but what they built was a mechanical menace disguised as sporty transportation. The Hemi's 425-plus horsepower in the Challenger's shorter, lighter body created a power-to-weight ratio that was absolutely insane, turning routine driving into an exercise in survival. The Challenger Hemi's danger came from combining the most violent engine ever built with a chassis that was never designed to handle such power. The Hemi's explosive torque delivery could break the rear wheels loose at any speed, in any gear, without warning. The Challenger's shorter wheelbase compared to the Charger made it more agile, but also more prone to snap-over steer that could transition from stable to sideways in milliseconds. The car's weight distribution was heavily biased toward the front due to the massive Hemi engine, making the rear end light enough to step out with minimal provocation. The 4-speed manual transmission required the strength of a professional arm wrestler to operate, and the clutch pedal felt like it was connected to a medieval torture device. Many drivers couldn't even fully depress the clutch pedal, leading to missed shifts and mechanical carnage. The Hemi's power was so violent that it would literally twist the Challenger's unibody structure, causing stress cracks and structural damage that often led to catastrophic failure. Professional test drivers reported that the Hemi Challenger required a completely different driving technique than any other muscle car. You couldn't just mash the throttle and hope for the best. The car's violent nature was so extreme that Chrysler issued special driving instructions with each Hemi Challenger, warning owners about the car's dangerous capabilities. The combination of the most powerful engine ever built and a chassis that couldn't handle it created a perfect storm of automotive mayhem. Number 2. 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona 426 Hemi. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona with the 426 Hemi engine was the ultimate expression of Chrysler's win-at-all-costs mentality. But what they created was essentially a street-legal race car that could challenge professional drivers, let alone civilians. Only 70 Hemi Daytonas were ever built, and for good reason. They were too dangerous for mass production. The Hemi Daytona combined the most violent engine ever built with aerodynamic modifications that made the car virtually uncontrollable on public roads. The 426 Hemi's explosive power delivery was amplified by the car's aerodynamic instability, creating a combination that defied both logic and physics. The massive rear wing and pointed nose cone created aerodynamic forces that worked against each other at normal driving speeds, making the car twitchy and unpredictable. The Hemi's torque was so violent that it could overcome the aerodynamic downforce, causing the car to become airborne during hard acceleration. The pointed nose cone made it nearly impossible to judge distances, while the rear wing blocked visibility so completely that changing lanes became a death-defying act. But the real terror came when both the engine and aerodynamics were working at their limits. The Hemi Daytona could reach speeds that were simply incompatible with public road use, often without the driver realizing how fast they were actually going. The aerodynamic package that made it stable at 200 miles per hour on a racetrack created unpredictable behavior at the speeds most drivers encountered on public roads. Many of the 70 Hemi Daytonas built were destroyed within their first few years of ownership, victims of their own violent nature and the inability of civilian drivers to control such an extreme machine. The combination of the most powerful engine and the most extreme aerodynamics created a car that was essentially unfit for anything except professional racing. Number 1. 1970 Plymouth Cuda 426 Hemi. At the top of our list sits the 1970 Plymouth Cuda with the 426 Hemi engine, the most dangerous MOPAR muscle car ever built. This wasn't just a fast car, it was automotive chaos disguised as transportation. Plymouth took their smallest, lightest body and stuffed it with the most violent engine ever created, resulting in a combination so hazardous that it defied logic, physics, and common sense. The Cuda Hemi was 200 pounds lighter than the Charger, which meant the same 425-plus horsepower was trying to move less mass, creating a power-to-weight ratio that was simply insane for 1970. The car could accelerate from 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds and run the quarter mile in the high 12 seconds, but those numbers don't tell the real story. The real story was written in twisted metal and broken dreams across America's highways. The Cuda's short wheelbase made it inherently unstable at high speeds, and the Hemi's explosive power delivery could send the car into uncontrollable slides with minimal provocation. The rear suspension was completely overwhelmed, causing the car to hop and skip like a stone across water during hard acceleration. The combination of the Hemi's violent torque and the Cuda's light rear end created a car that was essentially uncontrollable under full acceleration. Professional test drivers reported that the Hemi Cuda required a completely different driving technique than any other muscle car. You couldn't just mash the throttle and hope for the best. The car's violent nature was so extreme that Plymouth issued special driving instructions with each Hemi Cuda, warning owners about the car's dangerous capabilities. The engine's massive torque output would literally twist the Cuda's lightweight unibody structure, causing stress cracks and structural damage that often led to catastrophic failure. Many owners discovered that their Cuda could go from hero to zero in the blink of an eye, often taking them along for the ride. The combination of massive power, light weight, and primitive safety equipment created a perfect storm of automotive mayhem that resulted in more accidents than any other Mopar muscle car of the era. Plymouth built fewer than 700 Hemi Cudas in 1970, not because they were exclusive, but because they were too dangerous for mass production. Today, finding a survivor that hasn't been rebuilt multiple times is nearly impossible. Most were destroyed by their own violence long ago. And there you have it, the 15 most dangerous Mopar muscle cars ever built. These Chrysler legends prove that sometimes there really is such a thing as too much power wrapped in beautiful sheet metal. Which one of these Mopar monsters shocked you the most? Don't forget to subscribe for more muscle car history that Detroit doesn't want you to know. And check out our next video about the rarest Mopar barn finds ever discovered. Thanks for watching, and remember, they really don't make them like they used to, and maybe that's for the best.